Josephine Turalba, whose work is talking a lot about the politics of the oceans, the geopolitics, the land grabs or the undersea land territories, the technology that's involved with the oceans, the paths, the crossings, and they will go into all of that. We're very happy to have Caroline Ha Thuc, who's our curator of the exhibition, and she is also an oceans and art expert herself. So she's done many exhibitions, and I don't have the details about the symposium on the oceans you just did in France last week.
Exactly, and a book, about artists dealing with the issue of the ocean.
Yeah. And so, we're very happy to have Josephine Turalba with us for this exhibition, and to let's have
Thanks a lot, Katie. Thank you for having us and for your engagement with the ocean. So thanks for coming as well, and I'm super honored and very pleased to introduce you to Josephine Turalba. So Josephine, she's a Filipino artist based in Manila, and her practice works across different mediums and media to explore the, I would say, underlying violence of our society, and to reflect on the complexities and the mutations of our environment today. So for this exhibition, as Katie was just saying, she focused on the sea, taking the perspective of the ocean, which means basically working and seeing things as if she was in the middle of the sea. And she's going to tell us how she does that, which is, the best way, of course, to address all these hidden issues and to explore a bit more about what's going on below the sea surface that usually remains hidden to us. So her practice also is a way to really, I would say, to create renewed and very engaging forms of narratives to also to reflect on really our turbid times. But as you can see from the work around you, she does so in a very playful way. The works are very colorful, so that's also her original touch, I would say, which make it even more interesting. So maybe before we dive into the watery dimension of your work, we can first explore more about your technique, which again, as I said, is quite original because you are working with leather, you are working with embroidery, some recycled material, and of course, these famous bullet casing. So what, drives you toward this material and these common points that we can see in all this work, which is assemblage, so cutting and pasting things together to create these multi-layered artworks.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. But before I answer that, I'd like to thank you for all coming today, even it's raining. And then, of course, Katie, thank you for giving the space for my works to breathe. And Caroline for all the critical the questions that I would love to answer. So to start speaking to that first question about the different materials that I use, I have a very curious mind. I move from one material to the other, sometimes 2D, sometimes 3D. So I like to experiment, also learn its qualities and how it speaks to what I'm thinking. So I also have a background of jewelry design and making. So in jewelry, you kind of work with the materials. You have different colors, different qualities, hard, soft, metal, Also, sometimes I used to use like mother shells, wood, and you kind of put it together. So that training, I kind of bring back to my process. It's intentional, but it's not something that it's difficult to do because it comes naturally. Yes.
And may I ask about this? I mean, the bullet casing, of course. If you don't mind sharing this with us.
Sure. The bullets come from personal loss in 2016, and I had a fear of the bullets. I had a personal loss I lost somebody with 4 bullets, and because of that, it took a psychological hold on me. I was scared of it. So one time I brought it to the studio and I wanted to inspect it. What is this all about? And then I started putting them together, breaking them, cutting them, and yes, so now they are part of my material arsenal.
The leather itself, it's really something that you've been using from the
Yes.
start, which is quite thick. So
Yeah.
I guess like stitching, cutting leather as a gesture is also quite violent.
Yes. So yeah, the leather comes like a natural progression because it's very connected to guns. So when I go to and collect my bullet shells to shooting ranges and shops, they have these holsters and very connected to leather. So I wanted to explore leather, and I experienced that, there's so many colors of leather. So it's also like another box of crayons, which I got fascinated with. Also, there's rigid, hard, and soft leather. Leather also, when I work with it, yes, it's violent when I start hammering it and punching through. I like it because it stores, it becomes a storage of memory. The marks stay, and then also sewing through it is also kind of violent because you're punching a hole. But I would say it's a storage of rupture, but the stitches put these together and keep it. Doesn't heal it, It doesn't necessarily heal it, as I said. So you don't forget the rupture, but then you kind of put it together, and there's some sort of control. So when there's rupture, there's trauma. And when there's trauma, there's a loss of control. Personally, that's how I felt. And when I sew and I put them back together and I rivet them back together, there's some kind of control that I feel. So psychological hold. Also, it kind of neutralized the bullet. The psychological hold on me. So now I see it like it's just another tool, something that I'm not scared of anymore, something that really what makes it dangerous and scary is more of the finger that pulls the trigger. That would be more our motives, us as human beings, and which is really part of our nature. I think it's something that I've learned to embrace as well, and just be with, and so some peace there.
Yeah, a kind of domestication in a way.
Yes.
Trying to domesticate. Yeah.
Yes. Domestication.
No?
Yes.
But then if we look at the works that are behind us, we see something very different because the material looks like much more light in a way, because these are embroidery. They are made with, the textile itself is made with pineapple fiber, with silk. So it's very delicate and so soft, right? So the contrast with leather is of course very strong. So it's interesting to understand how you explored this new material, and I know it was during a residency, but then you were very open to try this new material, but that maybe looked lighter. But again, the violence is still there, but it's maybe more hidden in a way.
Yes. Yes. The ruptures are still there, correct, and they're more invisible now. The focus really is more on atmosphere, the breeze and the fragility, that it moves with just very little breeze or move air, brings your attention to the delicacy of it all. These panels were made for the Nakanojo Biennale last year. I had a residency there and I exhibited these there. I was looking into the connection of Philippines and Japan, really looking materially as well as not just material, but also through our stories, shared histories. So I found that Nakanojo area used to be the center of silk trade in Japan before World War II, before the technologies in textiles came. And so I wanted to connect to that because during my residency, I visited many of these empty silk houses and silk factories. And so that's kind of nostalgic for me. So I said, okay, and then I thought about our own industry, textile industry, where we have the pineapple fiber. We make pineapple fiber, we weave them. Traditionally, it's a tradition. And recently, they have introduced silk. So because pineapple is very brittle, they introduced silk and it has now become more durable. And they use it for garments and for our traditional clothing. But it is the most exquisite and finest textile in the Philippines. When I went to Italy in the museum, I saw a handkerchief by one of the queens and it was made of pineapple fiber. Yeah. So then I decided to use that here, and I really wanted to make present that the atmosphere more than the heaviness of the material of bullets for it. Yes. And then I also pulled on myths and legends for these, both Filipino and Japanese, and wanted to put them in one environment, not to simplify it, but maybe just to imagine something. What if they were in the same environment, and what if they were, how do they affect each other, and how does it carry memory forward? Yes.
Yeah, I think this is now where we are reaching the point where the ocean, of course, comes into play, because one of the features of the sea is to create this big fluidity between geographies, of course, between the past and the present, this movement of the tide and the perpetual, accumulation and change. And so I guess this is really what is, maybe giving you directions in the way that you are weaving all these stories together.
Yes. I was, my research was more on the West Philippine Sea, conflicts and militarization, and the South China Sea. But then when I got invited to Nakanojo, I said, what's the connection? And then I started saying, why don't I look at water and the ocean and the seas as a connective tissue? So I said, if you break down the walls and go through the water, then there is some sort of connection. from the Philippines, I will reach Japan. And I will reach the mountains of Nakanojo.
And now Hong Kong. So
yes,
it's-
now
it's-
Hong Kong. Because we're the three nations are archipelagos. Yes.
Exactly. So maybe just to you can give, take one of these panels to maybe give some examples of some of the stories, because
Yeah.
of course all these are very, full of details, and you can read them in a very different ways. But maybe if
Yes,
there
so
is one you want to choose.
Each panel has a different story. So for this, for example, it talks about our connections through water, right? I'm going to refer to the difficult words that I used. I referred to Japanese words. So this is like a major thread here, the red line, and then it breaks. So this represents more or less for me the boundaries, and then then the water flows. So right at the top is the legend of Berberoka, that's Filipino, from a clan where the material, piña silk, is woven. And he is the spirit of the flood waters. So he controls the levels of the waters. And this is in connection with the Japanese festival where the families guide the spirit of the dead through using lanterns through the water. So you'll see the motif of the lanterns and the water all throughout from the top to the bottom. Also, what I referred to here, so the images, the creatures are carrying lanterns. And you'll see the maliputo is the local fish from Taal Lake. Again, I referred, the embroiderers that I collaborated with come from Taal. It's a town, it's a heritage town where in the Philippines that is along a Taal Lake and right next to the Taal volcano. And so the Taal volcano with its eruptions reshaped that area, and it's now a lake. And again, I found echoes of that in Lake Haruna in Japan, where the lakes were formed by the calderas, the volcanoes. And then so you come down here, and then I incorporated the maliputo, the local fish of Taal, and wakasabi is also the local fish of Lake Haruna. So you see them there joining the festival and ringing there with the bells, ringing sounds to contribute to the festival. As they come down here, this is the Japanese tanuki, the shape-shifting animal. So here he is like a raccoon that turns into the original of tanuki is a shapeshifter from a raccoon that turned into humans. In this way here, I used him to mutate into a nudibranch. A nudibranch is a small worm underwater. Over here, and you have echoes of him down here carrying lanterns as well, and this shape-shifting all the way down. And then the other spirits that I also referred to was other water spirits, the sea spirit of the ocean. It's called the omibotsu over there. And the kappa is the water creature linked to rivers and crossings. So here, there is the tanuki again, the raccoon crossing the bridge, where the thread was broken, and so on and so forth. Here, this represents more the cultural descriptions and the water environments, including the sea, river, and ocean here. Yeah,
and what is
something
really
like that.
interesting is also, I mean, of course, the verticality of the panel, but also you can feel the energy. So and there is no hierarchy, no perspective. So this is, I mean, the ocean perspective that really mixes everything in your own way.
Yes,
so, yeah.
because I was thinking in Nakanojo's in the mountainous area. So I said, how does the sea connect to the mountain? So this vertical panel, apart from this is the way they make it, I think this is how to connect the verticality of how high the mountains are down to the ocean and under the water. So now, in fact, here in this installation, the idea is to take you underwater. The idea is that you experience that underwater, being part and floating with the creatures underwater.
But what is also quite original is that usually when we think about this connection between land and the sea, is like we think about the beach, for instance, a coastal area, whereas you are addressing also this verticality with volcano eruptions. So this is another way to think about this connection that is also very deep. So you are combining all these approaches together.
Yes. But also, really coming from I was a scuba diver since I was 12 years old. And I've learned to love the ocean and the sea since then. But I left it for a while when I was doing the bullets. But now I take us back there because I was looking at the militarization of our seas and the geopolitics. And I thought, that was quite heavy. That's so heavy. And I've been following the story of that for more than a decade. I think I've had geopolitics fatigue. too much of who owns what, territories, resources, this is mine, this is yours. So then I thought, one time I came across this concept of hydrofeminism, and it talks about how we can understand the world through water. And I said, and it also says that since we are 65% water, we are somehow connected to each other. So maybe from that type of thinking, I said, oh, that's different from all the geopolitical claims. And so I turned my gaze underwater. I just inverted, so this is the parallel line. We are here. I dove, and I thought, let's look at it from the perspective of the fish.
Yeah.
Let's look at it from not just apart from water, but also those that live beneath the waters. Yes.
But the geopolitics is even more pregnant, but except that we don't see it, right?
Yes.
And even so, if we still stay with the panels, for instance, so you are not only mixing these cosmologies, you are also injecting a lot about, of course, these issues. Like just behind me, we see this one. So it looks like a very, very tiny, cute, like a Japanese creature, but then it's having someone on the phone, and then you think about all the fish nets, about all the wires that we don't see that are, of course, tracing new geographies also on the seabed. So this is still very much present in your work, right?
Yes, but it brings it to the surface. What brings it to the surface is the invisible creatures, those that we hardly even consider to think about. So the invisibility surfaces the complexity. This one is talking about, this is entitled inter-nets. So you have, we are interconnected through the internet, but at the same time, it may intertwined with the fishing nets as well. You have the cables run through down, all the way down the panel, yes. Yeah.
And another very important dimension in all your work is this idea of mutation, because if you take time to look at all the creatures that you can see, either behind me or also on the leather works, I mean, like the sea creature, for instance, if you look at them, you will see that they are not like the way we think they should be in a way. So instead of having fins, maybe they have propellers, or they grow like, militarized in a way. So this is something you approach also in a very soft way. Can you tell us a bit more about these mutated creatures?
Yeah, so when I took on the perspective of the undersea creatures, I started to think, so what do they really, what's their opinion? But as I dive, they're just silent. They're silent witnesses to how the world moves, how we move. So I was thinking, but they are somehow affected also by what is around them. So as nature evolves, so just like any other creature, they evolve. So I'm thinking they evolve towards what they experience, what they see, what they hear. So you'll see in the animation, a ship pass by, and then the shrimp gets affected and by the sound and grows a satellite on his head. So those are my imaginations, in my imaginings, and I thought, yes, maybe that's how they adapt, right? So you'll see a shrimp there that grows the wings of an airplane, maybe something that they see up above. There's so many airplanes that pass through our seas. You'll see a manta ray also here and in the animation with drone propellers. So again, a mutation. What that means, I don't know. Maybe it's open to your interpretation. I think, they just adapt. And they are the silent, as I said, silent witnesses of our, not only us. Actually, I'm also thinking moving forward as a future, as a shared future. In the animation I made, there is a Bajau boy. So Bajau boy, Bajau is an indigenous people of the Philippines. They have it here also in Hong Kong. The ones that live in the stilt home, are they called?
Well, we say sea people.
The sea people.
You can say sea people,
They
yes.
actually have a relationship already with the water. Mm-hmm. So they're not the modern contemporary human. They already have a relationship. They care for the water already. And in the animation, you'll see that not just that the sea creatures are affected by the humans, but also that maybe in a future, what if the sea creatures also affect us? And in the animation, when the Bajau boy was out of breath, the oarfish comes up and blows him a bubble, and he grows a gill. So he adapts, mutates, and evolves also to be able to breathe underwater. So that in that sense, there is a cooperation, there is a care, there is that relationship that we connect to each other, that we develop and create with each other. So it's not just us, anthropocentric, they call it, or something, human-centered, but maybe something else. So it's really just a different kind of perspective.
Yeah, because you never judge anything. It's also, I think, the power of the work. So it's full of humor, and you are not moralizing. Like when you talk about this violence, when we see the Strait of Hormuz, they're just there. So with all the sea mines and these oil barrels that are drifting, so all this violence that we, daily hear about, you touch it in a very delicate way, as if you don't want to point to anyone in specifically, or any responsibility or.
Yes, I want to be able to bring the. It's very complex, our geopolitics and our where we live in now, the world that we live in. I just want to maybe somehow understand it through that lens, the underwater lens. I put it out there and I ask the audience to reflect on it, what you see, the different ways of approaching the work, perhaps in different levels. The first one would probably be aesthetically. It draws you in, the colors draw you in, and then you start thinking, oh, what are these forms and what does it mean? And then you start thinking, how does it affect, what does it mean, etc. You see the material, bullet shells, etc. So then it draws the audience in to go a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper. But you could also stay at the aesthetic level, which is fine as it is. Yes.
You mentioned the animation, so it's something that you have created for the show, just
yes.
like this piece, researching on Hong Kong. So maybe you can share a bit more about this research and how you've been combining Hong Kong
yes.
characteristics
yes.
with your Filipino background.
Yes.
And
so as I mentioned, I see the locations are not necessarily the man-made geographies that we know. Maybe seeing the map more on a subjective level rather than drawings and lines that divide us. We are all connected. And so when I came to Hong Kong and I did a little bit of research and of course conversations with Caroline and Professor, we spoke to one Professor Mark. Yes, it came to my attention the loating, which is a very unstable, maybe controversial symbol, contemporary symbol. Some people accept, some people reject that it may be a symbol of identity of the Hong Kong people. But also, it reminded me of the Philippine legend, Philippine creature called Shokoy, which is also an unstable character. Yes, this character is also hybrid, part human, part fish. Or loating is also part fish. It has a fish head and a human body. Shokoy has a scaly skin, webbed feet, and webbed hands. And I wanted to bring to the attention, I saw the parallelism of that these characters and myths are both unstable. They have been affected by it being indigenous, but at the same time, more contemporary issues like colonialism and militarization of our seas. Then I just want to bring in that instability that they live in this contemporary world. The animation, on the other hand, brought me to Lama Island. And there is an oarfish in Lama Island that surfaced, I think, in 2001. that they preserved very well. And it's located inside the temple of Tin Hau. And Tin Hau is the Hong Kong goddess of the sea. So I wanted to somehow incorporate that in the story of the animation. So they're both there. And the mutation again is there. Tin Hau mutated from a porcupine pufferfish. So again, this was brought about by anxiety, reflection again of the contemporary world we live in. And so you'll see the stilt homes of the sea people crumbling down because of perhaps reclamation or the transformation of water to land. Again, a reaction. So she gets agitated. The porcupine fish gets agitated and transforms and mutates into Tin Hau. And Tin Hau has a crown made out of coral. And because she was dancing with creatures that we see in the Hong Kong waters, that's the pink dolphin, sea manatees, dugong, and in this case, we have the horseshoe crabs there. So she loses her crown and it falls to the ocean bed, and somehow eventually it starts regenerating and becomes a coral reef. And that's how evolution moves. I also played with the title reclamation, somehow to reclaim our voice from the ocean, but also that the term reclamation when we turn water into land, but also an older term called clamation refers to an outcry or a complaint. So I put that all in there. Yeah.
You mentioned regeneration many times.
Yeah.
I think it's key also in your practice. Even if we think of your work methodology, like looking at even that this floating shokoi creature made with recycled pieces of leather. So it's really about putting back together things to recreate something. So
yes.
This concept of transformation, to give birth to always something. So is this the way you think about your practice?
Yes. And I mentioned earlier the personal loss I experienced in 2016. And that was a death. And I think I've transformed it inside my studio from death to life, transformation of something sad to something happy. It also echoes in the material that I use, that it is upcycled. Those leather fragments are the rejected leather that comes from the leather industry. So I just pick them up and buy them per kilo. And yes, so then I make art with them, then it gets regenerated, correct, or transformed, yeah.
But it's also a way to revisit all these cosmologies and traditions, and through storytelling.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's important, or that we need today new forms of storytelling to reflect on, these unprecedented times that we are facing, because it's something we've never encountered before. So as artists, you feel like we need to invent new narratives?
Yeah. Yes. I think myths and legends are stories that are necessary, new ones that will evolve from the contemporary us. Our stories need to also evolve. In history, myths and legends were used, created by us to explain some phenomenon that we couldn't understand. And I think it's important to continue storytelling and meaning making because it helps us digest what we experience, and pass it on to the next generation. It also marks that time that we live in. Yeah. So before, like they couldn't explain perhaps the moon, the phases of the moon. So they invent a legend called, this is the Bakunawa. This is a Philippine legend about a dragon eating the moon. So that's an example of a myth that came about trying to explain why the moon disappears every so often. And so there he tries to eat the moon. And the people start making noise because that's the way to prevent Bakunawa from eating the moon.
So then does he spit it out?
Yeah, I don't know.
Good point.
Yeah. Yes.
So maybe a last question before we leave it to you. If you have questions, maybe you can talk a bit about your recent research, because so Josephine, she's doing also a PhD, working on, reflecting also on her practice around this idea of play.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting. So if you can just tell us a bit about this direction.
Yes. So I'm looking at play as a methodology of an artist, on how an artist can use play to digest, to break down the complex world of geopolitics and sociopolitics, how it affects us, and just bringing in humor in such a way that maybe, yes, we will understand it. In psychology also, they have, for traumatized clients or patients, they have the role play as therapy. So I'm looking into that and how that can break down and maybe heal, maybe not necessarily heal, just make us understand the world we live in. Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you. So do you have any question?
So, quick
Yes.
one. Coming back to this panel, you mentioned about the broken thread. What does that signify?
The broken thread,
Yes.
it signifies borders.
Borders.
Yes, and the lines that we draw, the maps, the geographical maps that we've invented, national borders.
And a quick one. Is this 10 panels the full series, or is there more?
For now, this is the first series, yeah. But yeah, I'm thinking they were very fun to do, and then maybe
That's good.
continue with some of that. I don't know.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How is it working with the piña silk? And are there any insights or experiences that you want to share with us working with the Taal embroiderers as well? Like any lessons you got from them working with this very fine material?
Yeah. So earlier I told you about piña and silk. The finest and the most exquisite textile that the Filipinos have. And I worked with the Taal embroiderers. So their heritage is they embroider garments out of pineapple fiber. It's in the south of Manila, about an hour and a half away. They live around the Taal Lake and Taal volcano. So the experience with them, it was overwhelming as well as a learning experience for me, that they can really sew super fast. And I learned the different stitches that they have. So in that panel, for example, you have areas where it's full, very filled spaces. While in this panel, you have spaces like this, like are semi-filled. The Bakunawa dragon, if you come close to it, you will see that is the specialty of the town. It's called the calado stitching, wherein there are spaces made by stitching around it. So they gather the thread around it to make a hole, but they sew it around. So you'll see the body of the Bakunawa, the dragon. So it was really fulfilling as well to work with them, because not only did I shared my concept and my story, but really more, I started to have a relationship with them. So there is that relationship of care that brings about also the stories. When we sit together and we embroider, they tell me also their stories. And it gets incorporated in them. Yeah.
I think yes,
Did
you had a
answer?
question also.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reflections in the floor are very nice. Is that part of your concept, or is that just for this exhibition?
I'm going to turn that question over to Katie, the amazing gallerist, because this was her idea.
Well, I just, really felt that it would, make it more magical and all the reflections that it made. We didn't know how it would work exactly until we put it in. And we were worried that it was going to be too bright. But in fact, it really feels like you're in the sea, and that these kind of panels, they go even longer. So
Yes, it's beautiful idea. Perfect. Yes?
And, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
And do you sketch it all out before you do the embroidery, or you just go straight into it?
Good question. So I started analog. So I have a long craft paper to make patterns. Yes, I drew the traditional way with pencil, and then I would cut it, and then really found myself cutting and pasting, like moving these images to get, in the whole space. And then I said, if it's too big, I have to recut, I have to redraw. Then I said, what if I do this digitally? Also, I was looking into animating later on. Good thing I did that, because it eventually did go into the animation. So we started working digitally, making it the drawings on digital and then pasting it on the panel on the screen. One of the challenges were when I went digital, scale was involved. So when you see the long panel in a small monitor, then it looks so small. So my tendency was to put the creature and make it big, because I hardly see it. But then when I started laying it out I said, oh my God, that's too big. So I would project it on the wall, and I said, that's too big, that needs to come smaller, because then it's more than 12 inches, then how will it look, etc. So many challenges, both analog and digital.
So it starts like a collage, is that?
Yes.
So, first of all, I want to say congratulations, because this is an amazing collaboration. I can sense how everybody's working together, including Katie's role. I mean, I feel like through this installation, I'm actually underwater. Okay, when I experience
Nice.
this work. So, I wanted to talk to you about this question. You said you are a scuba diver.
Yes.
So you actually have this experience of being underwater, which I would say is a very rare experience for most of us terrestrial dwellers. Okay? And I've spoken to so many curators who are now in this oceanic kick, right? And this oceanic as a curatorial frame, blah, 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 blah. And I think it's become hyper-intellectualized, okay? But I'm really interested in your embodied experience underwater as somehow an experience that you can draw on to then draw connections, which I think are powerfully moving. So, and I love the fact that you're not just purely in the ocean, you're drawing the terrestrial world into your world, and you're using mythology, I think, quite poetically and beautifully to draw the terrestrial and connect the terrestrial and the oceanic from this perspective of in the waters and this idea of flow. So could you just speak to a little bit, what does it mean, what do you experience when you're underwater? How might that experience be something that we're totally unfamiliar with, okay? And how that might be some connection point for you.
I think most people have been underwater, haven't they?
Scuba diving?
Well, what, snorkeling?
Yeah, not literally not me. So
Really?
I think snorkeling is a recreational experience that either you live near the ocean, so it's a part of your living, or you're wealthy enough to travel and to recreate is snorkeling. But I think for a lot of people,
Yeah.
I swim, but I've never really been underwater.
Yeah.
Really not.
So thank you for that question. Yes. So I've been a diver since I was 12, and the experience when as soon as you hit the water, the material world disappears. I draw from that embodied experience because when you go down, when you're in the water floating, things already are so different. Number one, time. You only have very limited time and air in your tank. Then you start getting present to breath. You start getting presence to your inhalation and exhalation. So it's calming. You are now, again, inside a body of water, not just on top of it, or not just a flat line in a postcard, but you are in it, swimming, getting affected. When the currents start moving, you can't control it. You just float with it. So, something similar to space. Actually, but of course, none of us have been to space. But maybe some of you. I've never been, but the spacemen, they practice underwater. So there's no more gravity all of a sudden. You need weights to go down, to stay down. It's different from snorkeling because snorkeling is still up looking down, but I wanted this show to bring the audience from down looking up, really. So you see even in the animation, the whole thing is underwater. So even if you see the stilt houses, it's still worm's eye view from underwater. So that's how it feels. It was also a learning experience for me because the animators I was working with, the two animators I was working, and they weren't divers. So when they were putting the colors of the water, I said, no, that looks more like a murky. That feels more like a murky river bed than an ocean. Then again, oh, that's too green because that looks too shallow. We want the oarfish to swim in the blue, so it has to be deeper blue. These experiences they haven't experienced, so it's something that I took for granted and that I really appreciated as I was doing this works for this exhibition. Yeah.
And if I may, this is why we need artists. because most of the people that don't have this experience, and also, I mean, even those who are diving, they can't really reach, really the bottom of the sea. So what does it feel? We will never know. And when even people are there, they are either with a wetsuit or something. So there is always something in between. So it's still through imagination, through, these transformation, artistic interpretations that we get access to this underwater world. And it's so important because if we want, of course, to change the way we think about the ocean, we need to relate in a way or another. So I think this is a very important point. Yes. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.